What if I told you that in the next 3 years, you can significantly increase your personal income, substantially improve freedom of time, get a lot more hours back, significantly boost the value of your law firm, and tremendously increase quality of life? And to do all that, you have to learn three concepts, implement them inside your business. They're not hard, but they're incredibly counterintuitive. My partner and I implemented all three of them inside of our marketing company, and we are at our happiest ever. We're making more money than ever. We're working a bit less than usual. Mark Powers of Atticus has visited me on this podcast, and he shared these three incredibly counterintuitive concepts. And if you listen to Mark's every word on this, if you work on implementing those three concepts, in the next 3 years, your life will not be the same. You will make way more money, work way less hours, and enjoy life so much more. So listen to every word that Mark shares on this episode, and then execute. Finish listening and just map out a few things that you're going to do the next day to implement these things in your practice, in your business practice, and in your life. Enjoy. Hi there. I have a small but really meaningful favor to ask you. I watch at the stats on our YouTube channel and Spotify channel, wherever most people listen and watch our podcast. And I see that over 80% of everybody who listens to it regularly is not a subscriber. I'm asking you to subscribe to this channel. And the reason for that is my mission and the mission of my team is to help as many small law firm owners to learn how to transform their law firms into better businesses, and so they in turn enjoy better lives. When you hit subscribe button, you tell these platforms that this is content worth listening, worth viewing, and they in turn will show it to many other small law firm owners and hopefully help me fulfill our mission of helping them create a better business and enjoy better lives. So would you please do me this favor? It would mean the world to me, and hit the subscribe button. And my promise to you is that I will continue to work hard at creating good content with practical ideas that help you and your teams grow better law firms. Thank you. Welcome to another GLF podcast episode. I have the honor of having Mark Powers of Atticus on this episode. Mark needs little introduction, and so does Atticus, but there's one staggering statistic that I want to share before we dive into the conversation, and that is that Atticus was founded by Mark all the way back in 1989. And over these last 36 years, Atticus served well over 20,000 lawyers and helped them build better practices and enjoy better lives. It is such a remarkable achievement. I don't think I have ever had a guest on this podcast who has impacted so many lawyers. Mark, it truly is an honor to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Sasha. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you.
You started all the way back in 1989. What brought you into this industry in this role?
There's a lot of things. Originally, my focus was on small businesses. I came from a corporate world. I come from a large family, all entrepreneurial. And what I watched is small businesses struggling, especially in the area of marketing. People would sell them something that they could afford. It was usually a piece of a marketing puzzle, but it was in their budget and they could afford it. But unless you got the campaign, the whole process, it often didn't work, especially way back then. And way back then, we didn't have digital marketing. We didn't have some of the freedoms that we have in advertising now, way back then. And what I was working, because marketing dollars were coming out of the small business owner's pocket, as it does the law firm owner's pocket, it was particularly troubling to me. And so I had to find something that was systemized, easy, and inexpensive to work with. And I focused on referral marketing and systemizing that process so that anybody, regardless of whether they're an extrovert or an introvert, could use the process as long as they followed a process and a system, and it was inexpensive. And so what we would do is teach small businesses how to use that. And along the lines, my wife, who's also a partner in Atticus, Sean, said, Mark, this would go better if you niched it. And so I did focus groups. I brought in doctors, lawyers, CPAs, and other focus groups. And I looked at who had the deepest frustrations and the deepest pains with marketing, and who needed referral marketing, and where did it fit. And so I chose the legal. After all of that, I chose the legal profession, and then I took a deep dive into the legal profession, understanding all of the nuances of the business. It's a business like any other business, but there's lots of nuances. And once you do that deep dive, you have to understand the nuances of a personal injury practice versus an estate planning practice versus a family law practice. So it was a slow progression, and so what we discovered way back then is we could teach attorneys how to use referral marketing, but they never had the time to do it. They liked the idea, they could do it, but it was always crowded out by everything else. And so we had to do work with them on time management. So our two founding books were on how to become a great marketer, and then how to manage your time as a lawyer. And so we did 2 books on that. And then we would work with them one-on-one to help them develop the skills. And soon you found out there was something else at hand. I didn't have the team, and we had to work on staffing, and then we had to work on cash flow and finance. So slowly the foundation that makes a law firm and a business work, marketing, time management or productivity, staffing, and cash flow came together. And we worked with them slowly on that. But then we discovered, you understand this, Sasha, it's little by little, as you're growing anything, you figure out what's missing next. And what we found is that a lot of them didn't like that. Not only didn't they like the clients they were bringing in, they didn't like the life they were having. They were burnt out, working too many hours. They had so much on their shoulders with finance and overhead and team that I want to make sure I have a job. It's an incredibly stressful thing on themselves, on their personal life, their family life, the business. And so and especially when Steve Riley joined Atticus, Steve was an enormous contribution to the visioning and the thinking of what we needed to do. And what we knew we had to do is get them a life that they love. Why would I be building a law firm or a business if it wasn't serving my life? There's no joy in that. There's no inspiration. There's no passion. And I burn out. It becomes unsustainable. So the focus became, how do we identify what's important in their life and design that, make sure that we've got the North Star together. Then we go to work on the law firm to serve that. And so at some level, you've got to help them get their big picture, their firm big picture, their personal big picture, and then you've got to get the fundamentals together. And most of the small firms need that. But from there, we have to scale. And that's a whole different picture when we start scaling. But you can't scale the law firm if you don't have a strong foundation. It's like on a sand dune. It just keeps collapsing underneath you. So if I don't have strong marketing process systems, if I don't have strong staffing process systems, and I try to grow, something collapses. And then as the owner, I say, I tried this growing thing. I was scaling. It doesn't work. And they just get gun shy. So that was the original piece. The other thing we found in this, Sasha, is that yes, we know what we need to do to get a great life and get a great practice that we can scale. But how do you facilitate that? How do you make that happen? And it was over 30 years ago that we started working with them, coaching them one-on-one. So helping them develop their thinking, helping them develop these systems and the processes. And then eventually, again, with Steve's contribution to Atticus, I assume you know Steve Riley, he's
Mm-hmm.
brilliant. We started bringing them in as a small community. So you would bring family laws attorneys in as a community, personal injury attorneys in as a community, and work with them together. So now they had a community that supported each other. Plus, they knew what they needed to work on to open up, to put their foundation in place, open up their thinking, kill off that what we call heroic behavior, me doing everything, and grow the firm. So it was a lot of these pieces come together over time. And what we discovered is not just the practice area that's important, it's the number of employees. So growing a practice from one attorney to perhaps 8 or 10 employees takes one set of skills. To go beyond that, it takes another set of skills. And when you get to a certain level, it takes a whole another level of skills. But all of that, Sasha, all of that involves killing off this heroic mentality that I'm the only one who can do it.
Mm. So much wisdom in that. I always think about this analogy. Most humans, when we're born very healthy. And as we age, we develop certain ailments. When most businesses are started, most businesses are born very ill. And most people who start their businesses are very poor at diagnosing those ailments and are not equipped to solve the ailments. They may see that something hurts, but they can't solve it. So that heroic behavior that you're talking about, we
Yes,
all
Mike.
tried to solve this and that, 17 different hats,
Well,
while at the same time, everything
well,
is on fire.
and you don't know exactly what is the right lever to pull to fix it. Michael Gerber, I assume you're familiar. I don't know if you're
Yeah,
familiar
you're
with
familiar.
Michael Gerber. He had this great line. He talks about, and it worked for any organization, any business, but in law firms, it would be lawyers have this entrepreneurial seizure. They're working for somebody else often. And they say, look they're running this firm. They're doing these things. That guy's not so smart or that woman's not so smart. I could do this. And then they have this seizure that I could do this. And they go out and try to do it. And they find out all that it's encompassed in getting the business in the door, producing that business, keeping operations moving, making sure cash flow paid for. It's quite a lot. It's a lot to do. It's a steep learning curve when you don't even have a roadmap.
And the lack of the roadmap comes because, well, lawyers are specialists in their trade. They're not
Yeah,
specialists in the business of business.
yeah,
And most lawyers, when they start law firms, what do? They practice law. But practicing business is a full-time job.
yes,
How do
it
you
is.
how do you break out? And I know a lot of solo law firm owners, and when they say solo, they're not necessarily just working out of their spare bedroom. They may have staff, but they may have greater aspirations. How do you
Yes,
break out of that solo life, solo business, into having a business, not a firm, but an actual business?
yeah. The first steps is really in it comes from the perspective or the mindset of the attorney. To your point, we start these organizations and we're doing everything at first. We're doing the marketing, the production, the even the billing, and we're doing a lot of those things. The only way out of it is in the beginning, and then even farther out, is killing the hero all the way along the line. So I've got to, you could imagine if I was looking at a law firm and everything that needs to happen, and I put it on a organizational or an accountability chart. And I said all the things: the marketing, the production, the billing, the hiring, the firing, and I had organizational boxes there, and I put in who's responsible for all of those things, including the receptionist. And in the very early stages, it's the attorney's name in every single box. So strategically, I have to kill off the hero in those boxes. And that means I have to hire people. And in this case, I have to invest in people. And so maybe the first thing, the simplest thing is I invest in a receptionist or a paralegal. I'm nervous about it because I don't have enough work. But it's a catch-22. I don't have enough work because I'm doing all of the paralegal and the substantive higher level attorney level work. And so I can't go out and market to find new business to come in, and I can't afford the help. So it's an investment that I almost need. I have to take that leap of faith and hire that first billable person or first person to free me in production a little bit. And then might start with the paralegal. And it scares the daylights because I can't afford it at this stage. But then I afford it. I get them in the door, and I'm amazed at how easy it worked and how well they do. So I killed off that paralegal box. But then I say, I'm still doing the billing. Okay, now I got to get a bookkeeper or a part-time bookkeeper or a bookkeeping service, an accounting service to help me. And I've got to kill off the hero there. So it's a process, little by little. And as I stabilize and over time kill off those heroic behaviors, I then come back to I've stabilized the organization, but now I got to kill off the hero at larger levels. And often it starts with substantive legal work. And I have to start replacing myself as the chief producer, which is the scariest thing in the world. I have to hire somebody that can do the work at my standards, with the level I want to see it done, and take care of the clients with my standards for client care. Really hard to do, and quite frankly, it's expensive. But it's another investment. And what I do when I do that, I start to shift the organization from producing income for me, a W-2, and I start working on having some profit, some passive income. And so I can use that passive income to invest because I'm now, it's a paradox. The less substantive work I do, the less income I make, but the more profit I make. And that's what I want. If I push the work down and delegate it to competent people, and we keep pushing that work down to the lowest level of competency, not the lowest or highest level of incompetency, the lowest level of competency, I'm going to be profitable. And it's going to free me to do some of the marketing that only I can do sometimes in the early stages, and then eventually be able to hire a marketing person or a marketing organization to support that element. But again, I have to start replacing myself in that heroic behavior. So as that happens, we slowly work that through the organization. And eventually, when I get up to 9, 10 employees, I'm going to start looking at an operations person to free me from managing the day-to-day operations. Often it's not what the attorney does well, right? They're not very good at it to start with. And they're better off supervising, managing, or mentoring their attorneys, mentoring them to deliver the work they want the way they want it done. And so I get an operations person. And the operations person starts managing the firm accountabilities, the firm hiring, firing, those sort of things. And it frees me up from that. But now I've got an organization that's less dependent on me. So ideally, the more I can free up the attorney, the more profitable the organization is and the more stable it is. I could talk, Sasha, about how we do that. How we...
Well, before you go there, if you don't mind, I am going to share my personal example. I run this company, Grow Law Firm. This is my business number 4 in the last 24 years. The first one was financial services. I had a very successful exit there. The second 2 did okay, no successful exit there. And this company is my happiest place. What makes it so happy, this is my year number 8. I bought into an existing company with numerous employees. It's significantly larger now. We're about 6 times larger revenue wise than we started when I started here a little over 7 years ago. And this paradoxical thesis that the less you work, the more you earn, I am the living proof of it.
Yes.
In the earlier day working here, I would have 10, 12, 13 meetings per day.
Yes.
It made me incredibly ineffective.
Yes.
Now I'm down to, at the most, including doing this podcast, 4 meetings a day.
Yes.
And my income from where I started in 2018, we're recording this in April of 2025. My income this year is going to be approximately 10 times, as in 1,000% greater
Yeah.
than when it's a very substantial income, but I work
Yes.
less.
Yes.
And I have fired myself. I took off many hats that I wore in 2018, 19, 20, 21. To every year, my goal is to take off another major hat that costs
Yes.
me at least 20% of my calendar and put that hat on someone else. Absolutely living proof that this very paradoxical thesis works beautiful.
It's difficult to explain to people in this sense. It's like a butterfly trying to explain to a caterpillar that this is what it looks like, right?
Love
It's
it.
hard because
Great
when you're
analogy.
the caterpillar,
Mm-hmm.
they're crazy. There's no such thing as working less and making more money. It's a gimmick. It's somebody's talking fast here, right? But it's sound thinking, because so I like to. I'm going to put it in terms of when I'm trying to grow or scale a firm and shift thinking, I need to have our members start thinking about positive constraints. So what's a positive constraint? It's something I intentionally restrict
Mm-hmm.
that forces something else to change or shift. So I can positively, when I say positive, in the affirmative, restrict calories, and I can lose weight. So I can restrict it, and something's going to change. The reality of something else is going to change. And so I call this a positive constraint. And what they do, positive constraints focus and motivates us to search for new ways to do things, because if we put the constraint in, we can't do it the old way if we honor the constraint. So if I restrict the calories and I'm not meeting more, I've got to find other ways to get around and shift my diets, those sort of things. So ultimately, if I'm going to scale it and grow, I've got to learn how to put constraints in. One of those is around time. And at least in the Atticus methodology, when someone comes into a program, we will work with them to get the foundations under control: time management, marketing, staffing, cash flow, all of those things. But then we start talking about, now we have to reduce your time in the law firm. And so the first thing we take away, we start looking at, okay, we're no longer work weekends. We're no longer going to work weekends starting from a month from now. So how do we get everything situated so that you don't have to work weekends? And I mean no answering emails, no working on files, nothing, just personal joy, having fun, being with your health, your family, those sort of things. And so we get that in place. But what that does is it forces the inefficiencies in the firm to surface. So what attorneys have been doing by working evenings, weekends, vacations, I say this in a kind way, they're cheating. They're cheating in the law firm. They're covering up inefficiencies with their money and their time. Because I can't get people to do the work that I need to do, I'll come in on the weekend and do it. Because I've got so many interruptions, I'll stay the evening. because I have no one to cover for me, I won't take a vacation. And little by little, we eat away at anything that it gives me a good reason to have this law firm. And I could be making great money, but I'm miserable. So we carve out a weekend and we say, okay, now 2 weekends a month. Now no weekends over the course of the month. And it's stressful at first because I don't have the solutions in place. But that positive constraint forces me to do something. Maybe I have to hire someone. Maybe I have to fire someone. Maybe I have to put new systems in place, but it surfaces those and I stop covering it up. Then we take away an evening. Then we take away all of the evenings so they get home on time. Same thing. It forces the inefficiencies to the surface. It's like popping up so we can see it clearly. It's a pain, so we have to face it and we go to work on it. Then we start to take away a Friday once a month, twice a month. And now they're having long weekends twice a month. That, certainly you better know what you're going to do with that time. You're going to have hobbies, interests, passion. Eventually, when we set a target on the early stages after the basics have covered, that they have to take 125 days off a year. So that includes weekends, the free day during the month, 1 or 2, and it includes vacations. That constraint forces us to kill the hero along the way because we can't do it all and have that free time. But it's magnificent because as that happens, the profits start to go up as we do that. Eventually, this is scary. This is the butterfly talking to the caterpillar. But eventually, as they get really skilled, we have them take 100 as a shareholder. I'm not advocating this for everyone in the firm, but the shareholder takes off 175 days a year, which often includes a sabbatical of 30 days in a row out of the firm. People listening to this will say, that's impossible. It can't be done. It's crazy, said the caterpillar. But what it does is hones the firm, puts good people in place, and it forces the firm to delegate to people, which means we're delegating, creating profit centers. They're doing the work. I might be supervising or managing it from time to time, but they're doing the work. And if I've got my profit ratios together, we're very profitable. And I'm working less time. It's shocking, as you say, the butterfly says, it's just shocking how I'm free and I'm flying. But it allows time for the really important rest, recuperation, joy, creativity, strategic thinking, problem solving that I didn't have when I was doing it. So that's an example of a positive constraint. Would it be helpful to give another one or two?
Yes, but I just want to pause here for a second, just say how beautiful this example is. And I want to really hone in on the last part, and that is when you're always in the doing mode, the amount of time you have left for thinking mode is about yay small.
Yes.
Like, this is how much thinking you can do. And if you're at the helm of your law firm, this is a business, and you have this much time to think about the business because you're always doing something, you're cheating your business. And if you're always doing something, you're also cheating your family. If you're working weekends and nights, I mean, you're stealing it from someone else.
Yes. And often they're stealing it from their health.
But that comes later, usually.
Oh, but then they stop exercising, right? Because I'm doing so much, weekends, evenings, I'm not getting time, I'm pulled from this to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then infrastructures start crumbling. And what I mean by infrastructures, my support at home, things start crumbling there. My health starts crumbling. And it's a vicious cycle. It gets worse and worse. So I love listen, I can't put positive constraints in out of scarcity or when we're starving. We have to get some of the foundation together. But once you put them in place, another lovely, lovely constraint that I love is connected to the marketing. So the constraint that I love is in the intake system. So most firms, when we start to market little by little, we'll take anything that comes in the door, but as they work with you and others, they get better and better. And they start to get business coming in the door, and they follow this philosophy that, oh, I can grow this business because I've got marketing working. And what they do is they add capacity, they add people, they add space, they add technology. All good. But what they just added was overhead, lots of overhead. And which is fine if you've got all the systems working and you do it right, if there's a time to do it. But it's usually not my first reaction. My first reaction that I love to do when marketing is working is what I call choke the front end of the pipeline. So imagine marketing is working, businesses, people are knocking at the door, they're calling, they're making appointments. But at intake, if I, instead of adding more capacity, people, space, technology, I say I start raising my rate or my retainer or my file value. And what that does is it forces more people to say no. We want people to say yes coming in, but what I'm doing now is I'm tightening the screws on intake, and I'm saying I want less people to come in the door at first. And what impact does that have on the firm? The impact it has is the average fee. We get better clients. The average fee goes up right away. And it's one of the important KPIs in anyone listening to this. If I was looking at a law firm and I wanted to know it was operating pretty well, I would look at the average fee per file in the different practice areas going up over time. Because that means if the average fee is going up, that means I'm doing something good. That means I've got fewer cases at a higher value. Now, that gives me time if I raise the rate or I improve my intake criteria. It gives me time to strengthen the infrastructure at this new level to grow and grow intelligently. And then if I want to, I could loosen my restrictions a little bit to allow more business in. This is meaning marketing's working, people are knocking at the door, but I never, ever, you know this, right? Never, ever, 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 ever stop marketing. This is not an excuse to stop marketing. Keep that up, improve it, get more people knocking, but more people saying no. Now, it doesn't mean they're going unserved, they're going to another firm. But my average fee is going up, my profitability is going up, and I'm intelligently raising or building the infrastructure with abundance, meaning I've put away cash, I've got profit, I can invest in that, and I'm not doing it out of scarcity. Often what happens is they increase the size of the firm based on people and space, and they always feel like there's a monster, a cash monster chasing them. Like, I got to make so much money this week because we're not going to survive. I got to make the payroll on these new people and this new office space. I don't, that's a terrible failing. So restricting that front of the pipeline first is such a great, great thing to do. But over time, we loosen it. The only way it works is if you keep marketing, though, and you get better and better at marketing. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. But once again, such a counterintuitive idea.
Yes, stop taking clients in the door.
Stop taking clients in the door when they're knocking on the door. But what you can do, if you follow this idea, your law firm will become more profitable and more valuable. So if tomorrow, God forbid, you got sick, another attorney would buy it at a higher valuation because of how much more profit you're making versus other firms that do take on everything, but at a lower fee. Thus, they have actually lower profitability. You want to buy a business that's wildly profitable.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because what I did is I increased the value of the firm too because of the first constraint. It's not dependent on me for
Correct.
everything.
Correct.
Somebody else can step in and do this. Or, I have this whole um, one of the things a lot of attorneys want to do is either at later in life is sell their practice or have a succession team come in and take it over. But if they're not doing the things that you and I are talking about right now, what associate in their right mind would want to invest in this firm for
What would you be
starters?
buying?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's a
Headaches,
job.
long hours,
Hmm.
a job, right? But in most cases, people like yourself that start an organization are hard to replace. What I mean by that is they can do so many things. One person can't buy them. So you need often a team of people to buy them, right? Or succeed them. I am a much bigger fan and advocate for law firms as they get through those foundational years and can grow and they start to scale. We start putting operational teams in place, a COO, and eventually people that can manage the HR depending on their size and manage the marketing, those sort of things. Then I've got an asset that's producing a profit every month, every quarter, every year. Why would I need someone to succeed me to take it over? Why would I need to sell it? Would I have someone take over my 401 when it's delivering, or my rental properties when it's delivering a profit every year? Maybe there's some argument to selling it. Usually they don't work out well. It's hard to really navigate that. Some people can do it well. But I'm a big fan of building this asset brilliantly and then letting it serve you for the rest of your life.
That makes so much sense. By the way, there is a hidden opportunity at turning away prospective clients. And that hidden opportunity, some of our clients deploy it brilliantly well. Prospective clients come to them, they price them out, but what they do with those prospects who they turn away, they refer them to their peers,
Yes, of course.
thus doing revenue share. And if
Yes.
you think about business, a service business like a law firm, your net profit at the year's end is going to be somewhere in the 15, 20, if you operate incredibly efficiently, 25% range. If you
Yes.
refer out that business and you collect 25% of revenue on each case, successful case that you refer out, guess what you just did? You just
Yes.
made that profit without doing any of the work.
Yes, especially right. We can do that in contingency practices and that sort of stuff. It's good. But even if I don't do, you know, I can capture that later on. I can, as long as I take care of those people that are referred in or knock on the business or knock on the doors. I don't have to treat them poorly. I can pull them into my marketing channel, keep in communication with them, and when something, depending on the practice area, when something else happens. Do you want to? Can I give you another example of
Yes,
a
please.
positive constraint that I
Yes,
love?
please.
So this positive constraint, again, I'm interested in the a practice that a law firm that someone loves and it's really working for them brilliantly, and a life. But for me, a healthy firm is returning profit, passive income. It's sort of like if I look at my or your biometrics, there's a certain weight or body fat that I'm looking at to be healthy. And so in a law firm, I'm looking at a healthy profit. But and by the way, what is the profit? It's a return on the investment to the shareholder that put in all of that time and that risk and that capital to get the business where it is today. It's a return on that investment, and it's a paycheck for the owner. That's where the owner needs to make the money, not in the W-2. They need to make it there. But how do you get to profit? You probably read or heard of The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a little parable.
Love that book.
Michael Micklewich.
Good for you. I
Profit
do not
First.
remember his name. Published in the 1920s. It's a gem of a book.
Oh, that's Babylon, right? The other one I was talking about is Profit First.
Oh, Profit
With
First.
yes, the other one, which is the same message, right? Pay yourself first. But Profit First does a great thing of putting a positive constraint on. The traditional formula for profit that law firms use is revenue minus expenses equals profit,
Hmm?
which is great, right? I can make money, I'll pay my expenses, and whatever is left over, I'll take for the owner. So every piece of scrap that's left over, and often, at the end of the year, I'm thinking, these employees have done so great. I'm going to bonus them here, or we can pay a little bit more for that. There's no restriction on the expenses. So what Profit First and Michael does, which I love, is they flip the formula, right? They say revenue minus a defined profit equals expenses. That's a great positive constraint. So maybe I've got no profit now, but I take the revenue and I say, okay, every quarter I'm going to put aside 2% of the revenue to pay the owner. Now that leaves me 98% of the revenue to pay for expenses and operate this company. Then next quarter, I might up that to 4%. And now I've got 96% to operate the company on. And over time, I might up that to 10, 15, 20, little by little by little. It's like the intake model, right? We're constricting the expenses by raising the profit percentage number that we're putting aside to pay the owner. But it takes discipline. It takes a commitment. It takes people honoring and keeping their word, because it's hard for attorneys to do this. They struggle with this, but it's such a powerful thing because it says, okay, we got 90% of the revenue to operate on this year. What are we going to do? Next year, we've got 80% of the revenue to operate on. What are we going to do? Maybe I need to invest in something. I can take money from profit if I'm going to invest, or I can loan the firm money, but I need that profit to pay for the owner. And that's the healthy, responsible thing to do. And I will say, Sasha, it's such a great thing when the owner first starts taking out that profit check. They're like, oh my God, they love it. It's like, that's what I get paid for doing. All this other stuff I'm doing, I get paid for. So I'm not sure if that's helpful to your listeners, but I hope so. There's a lot of things we can do
It's
that
very
people need to
interesting.
know.
Mark, you shared three key ideas, and all of them were exceptionally counterintuitive. The first one was work less, but make more. The
Yes,
second one was turn away clients by raising prices instead of the very intuitive bring in more clients. And the third one was focus on profit first instead of focusing on revenue minus expenses and then whatever is left. My business partner and I do all three of these things, and
yes,
our business every year only gets better.
yes,
Only gets better. It's incredible how counterintuitive all three of these are, but how powerful they are at the same
yes,
time. If you watch this, if you listen to these ideas, and if you're a caterpillar, if you're in the caterpillar stage, this may sound just the same as if we spoke in alien language, truly an alien language. But Atticus, I know firsthand, has a number of wonderful advisors who could expand this beyond the constraints of one podcast episode. AtticusAdvantage.com is a wonderful website with plethora of resources. Phone number is there. The contact us form is there. I highly recommend having the benefit of knowing number of advisors at Atticus to reach out to them and connect with them and see what it is that they could help you with. to build these three practices, these three counterintuitive ideas into your life. And it's not going to be day one. I know it's not going to be day one, but within 3 years, give or take, your life, quality of your life is going to be revolutionized, not because you're working more, but because you're working less. Not because you're making less, but because you're making more at the same time. And because at the same time, your business is becoming more valuable of an asset, which is, as a business owner, not an employee of your company, but as a business owner of your company, should be your primary responsibility to the usually one or two shareholders of the company. It's building the value of your business. So very, very powerful, and again, so counterintuitive and so hard to understand. It takes some time. It really takes, just like for my partner and I, it took some time to understand these and implement these and see the power of it at work. We have an advisor, not part of Atticus. He's truly a business advisor. This gentleman teaches a handful of clients for fun. He has across multiple businesses, he has 18,000 employees. And at our last meeting, he looked at us kind of funny when he said, "How much did you guys make last year?" And we're like, "This much." And he's like, "Why do you still work there?" And we're like, "What do you mean, Alex?" And he's like, "Well, like, you can hire a CEO without really taking a hit to your personal income and just go sail around the world. Like, well, what do you want to do?" And we're like, "Well, we love this thing enough to keep doing this." But he's like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah. I get that, but it was a revolutionary way of thinking. By the way, if we did not implement these three very counterintuitive ideas in our business throughout the last few years, we wouldn't be having that conversation. He wouldn't have asked us that question. It would
I
be an
agree.
impossibility because we would be just doing things, day in, day out, and always thinking about this. So reach out to Atticus. They will teach you how to put this into your practice and into your life, and your life will be so much better off for this. Any other parting words of wisdom that you want to impart on our audience?
Well, it's something that you said, Sasha, and I'm not saying this because it's what Atticus does. I'm saying it because it's one of the biggest differences for growing, scaling, reducing the stress, the pressure, and feeling like you're on top of it and you control the firm, is you hired an advisor, you hired a coach. I've used coaches for the entire time of Atticus. And what happens is somebody out there knows the operation, knows the business, and has seen it and done it a number of times. They can shortcut the pains, the frustration. They can cut through the BS,
Mm-hmm.
what works, what doesn't work. That's important to me. So it's great to know things, but to have the support, the accountability, the wisdom, the direction, and sometimes the kick in the pants to get something executed. That's where the rubber meets the road, whether we're executing. And that's where I find one of the things about a coach is valuable. While they see things you may not see, they also can notice when you're not executing. The KPIs aren't coming together, and you may not see it. So I love that you have an advisor, and that's what I would tell everyone to find. Find an advisor that can coach them and work with them.
And the truth is that we have multiple advisors.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have multiple advisors because no one advisor is good at everything. So we have this advisor, Alex, who is not industry specific. He's very industry agnostic. He owns multiple businesses across multiple industries. He's just a brilliant business mind.
yes,
We have another advisor, John Morris, who he never disclosed the number, but I believe he sold his marketing company for $80 million. He
yes,
built, by the way, speaking of positive constraints, John Morris sold his marketing company for what I believe was $80 million. He didn't say the number. I think he just gave us some other numbers that made sense. That marketing company never had more than 40 clients. 40 clients. It's a positive constraint that he put on the marketing company from the onset of he was an experienced executive before that. And he said, we're going to have 40 clients. Why 40 clients? It's a very manageable number. They started with small retainers, and then he increased prices. And every time they signed up a new client, they looked for a client to part ways with, hand off to another marketing company who can handle them. He
Yes.
ended up toward the end of his tenure as a CEO of the marketing company. He had quite a few employees, 250 employees, serving 40 clients with a typical retainer of $1 million a year.
Yes.
It was a great positive constraint that got him to the point where he never has to work another day in his life. He
Right.
does coaching for, he's still a young guy, I believe 52, 53 years old.
Yes.
And it's a positive constraint that absolutely worked in his life. Absolutely worked in his life.
Absolutely.
And I so believe and know firsthand the power of having the right advisor on your thinking team, not the doing team, the thinking team. Because once you're within the frame, once you're within that picture of your business, you don't see the entire picture because you're within the frame. It's impossible. It is absolutely impossible. When Alex asked us, like, why do you still work here? We haven't ever thought of like just getting a CEO and doing this for us. And we could, I'm 46, my partner is going to be 40 in a couple of months. We can retire.
Yeah.
We never thought about it. But he was like,
Yeah.
why are you still here? Well, never thought about it that way. But he asked, he tested us, like, if we still love this or not. I'm like, we still love this. We're not ready to get out of this.
Yes. And it's easier to love it when you have a life and you're making money. It's easy to love it.
I felt like I did not have a life when I joined this business a little over 7 years ago, and I had 10, 13 meetings every day.
Yeah.
And I worked solid 6 days a week. When I say solid, I'm talking about 10, 12-hour days, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
By the way, if I would have gotten the right advisors right there and then, the success that we're experiencing now would have come a lot sooner.
I agree.
But I fell into the same trap as most other business owners do, which is like,
I can do this.
well, I can do this, but I also do not have the profit to hire someone else to do this and this and this and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I
That's true.
stagnated our growth, stifled
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
hurt myself and my family in the process. Most definitely. Everything that you said, I lived through it.
I know you have. And I know you're doing it successfully. And it's a joy. It's a joy. And I'm so grateful to be here with you, your company, your listeners, and very honored that you would have me.
Thanks,
So
Mark. I really appreciate such kind words. Thank you for being here. Thank you for imparting all this wisdom. It's definitely one of my most favorite, if not I need to process this. This is possibly the most favorite episode that I've done. And I have been doing this very consistently every week for 2.5 years now. So such an
well,
honor, Mark.
you make it easy on me. So thank you.
Appreciate that.